Okay, this is Radio TV Phono Nut, and what we have is a Crosleyfone. It's actually badged Califone, but it's really a Crosleyfone. This is the last, to my knowledge, classroom phonograph ever made, and I've always wanted to analyze one just to see how closely the guts of this match something like a conventional Crosley record player. Well, I found this on the Goodwill site, and it was cheap. I was the only bidder, but they didn't pack it very well, and you can see what happened. And that just also shows you these are not built as well as the older ones, because I've had some older style classroom record players that were horribly packed, and they showed up undamaged. So let's see what we got here. Okay, here it is all blown apart. It is indeed a mono amplifier with two 4-inch speakers wired in series. So even though I think this was built in the same factory that builds Crosley, this was built to Califone specifications, which obviously weren't very high. But any portable Crosley I've seen, suitcase style portable, has always been stereo. So this is, like I said, not a Crosley with not a stock Crosley with the Califone name on it, but I believe it was made by the same folks who made Crosley. You noticed all the Chinese ejaculatory fluid slapped everywhere. And the covering is peeling back, which is common with modern Crosleys. I don't know what kind of glue they use on this stuff, but it doesn't really hold very well. Manufactured December 2005, and it's the same type of labeling that you would see on a Crosley, as well as the same kind of hardware and everything. In fact, the case looks like what they used for the old portable Stackomatic models. So they probably just recycled that for use for this Califone player. Inside this little compartment we have our wall wart power supply. And here's the underside of the turntable, just your typical DC motor driven mechanism like it's used in most other 21st century record players. And you can see by the, looks like here on the top here we have some fake plastic hinges where this plinth might have been used as part of an all-in-one system with a dust cover possibly. As far as the damage, I can fix it. I've just got to find some screws. That just goes to show how shoddy these are put together in comparison to the older ones, because like I said, I've had the older ones that arrived packed horribly and they survived, but this one didn't. Now here's an old one, an old 78 player from the 40s that came from the same place, packed just as horribly. Let's open it up and see if it survived. Now look at here. Look at this. Yeah, back in the 1940s, this was your parental lock. Back then they didn't need passwords and stuff. You just had a key lock on the side of the record player to keep the kids from messing with it. But it looks like this one might have survived a little better. Yeah, the cartridge was hanging down loose in this when they sent it, so that wasn't a result of lousy packing. Let's open it up and see what we got. Well, no manufacturer's name that I can find anywhere on here, but this is a pleasant surprise. I was expecting a little one-tube wonder amplifier, but this one actually has a 3-tube amp with a power transformer, so this ought to be a pretty decent one. And we have a nice Utah electrodynamic speaker here, so even though whoever made it was ashamed to put their name on it, this doesn't appear to be a slouchy record player. But back to the Califone, one of the reasons this fell apart so easy is because they use these little spring clips that the bolts go through to hold these side pieces on, and one of the bolts is missing, and this thing got jarred so much in shipping that it just came loose there, and had they raise the transport screws where it wouldn't bounce around, maybe it wouldn't have done that, but they didn't. There's some differences between this one and the old Califone units. Is the old ones had a flip-over cartridge for LP and 78. Even though this one has 3 speeds, you only have a single LP tip. And then, of course, we have the all-plastic motor board and mechanism, where the old ones had a metal motor board and a good AC motor-driven General Industries or Alliance mechanism. The older ones had a 5 to 10 watt amplifier with a front-mounted 6x9 speaker, where this one has a little 5 watt amp based on the specifications, but it may not even be that much in reality, and a couple of little puny 4-inch speakers wired in series. Also, there's no headphone jack on this modern one, and no corner protectors on this modern one that the old ones all had. Yes, I had the needle guard down. This one does have an auto return mechanism, which I'm not surprised by. Most of these types of mechanisms have an auto return feature. Okay, I found my missing hardware stuck to the speaker magnet, so that's good, as well as one of my motor board mounting screws. It probably came from right here where the wood splits. We're going to have to get some wood glue and a clamp and clamp that back down. But for now, I think we're going to put it back in the case and see how it sounds, if it works at all. But this is the way it should have been shipped, with the transit screws backed all the way up. That way the turntable couldn't bounce on its motor board here. Alright, we're back together as we're supposed to be. Now let's go try it. Alright, let's see what happens. Well, I guess the needle's bad. Imagine that. Nope, I forgot to flip the guard up.
To bring you here, now you'll be thanked that last week you knocked them out in New York, tonight Chicago's going wild. Hey, your new record.
Well, it don't sound too bad, but it's not as good as the older models are.
Dying, staring out.
And you notice this brick that it runs off of. Now, I believe this was discontinued in about 2017. And as far as school record players, schools were pretty much done with records by the late 90s, early 2000s. I think my school district dumped all their records in the early 2000s, as well as all of the record players that they sent to recycling. You know, we can't let nobody have them, but we'll send them off to have them destroyed. So I'm pretty sure what few schools were buying these from 2004 until 2017 were just ones who may have still had some records on hand that had not been yet replaced by CDs or digital copies yet. But there you go, the 21st century Califone record player, the last school record player made.